How you doing, fans? Welcome to another episode of In the Sand podcast. As always, I'm super excited just to be back one more time to talk to another great coach. It's just amazing to continue to reach out to coaches and just have these great conversations, just talk basketball and use our platform for good and use our platform to share our stories and use our platform to hopefully make a difference in the world today. And I'm excited to have Coach Trey Collins on. Again, Coach Collins is a good coach, good young coach, and I'm excited to be able to have a conversation with him. Of course, we have a mutual friend, of course, Coach Coach Chance Collins. Obviously, that's his brother. But I had an opportunity to be able to work with Coach Collins when we played against Morton, against one of my good friends, Jerry Dawson, when he was at Morton. Of course, he's assistant principal now at Provide High School. And so I would often see what the Collins brothers were doing. And then I started to follow Coach Collins, who we have here on the show today, and some things that he was advocating on social media, promoting his team. And I got excited to see a young guy with a whole lot of passion. And from what I know from the outside looking in, he's a very caring person. He's a very compassionate person. And one thing that I always admire about people, and every day I strive to be like this, is loving people no matter who they are, where they're from, what they look like. So I'm excited to have a young guy on with Coach Collins. Coach Collins, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Coach Sanders. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir, man. Coach, again, we talked a little bit before the show started. Again, I'm excited to be able to talk basketball with you. And I was just thinking about this, Coach, and I probably should have said it before I got started, man. But man, it's tough to be able to see what's going on in our country, man, with all of these school shootings, man. I had an opportunity to look at some of the videos today from what happened in Nashville, and man, I almost hate I watched it, man, because it was so graphic. And man, I'm really kind of bringing it up. So hopefully, when everybody sees this, we can kind of be conscious of what we do and what we say. Again, I'm not a policymaker. I stay in my lane. I don't know much about politics, but I would love to see something done about these guns and this violence that's happening in our world, and it seems to be happening every single day. So, just want to use this platform to just pray, for those in Nashville, but also just pray for some type of solution to the issue that's at hand. Because again, when you just watch those videos and you just see the graphic nature of it, man, it kind of grips your heart. And maybe I'm getting a little bit older. Obviously, I have a daughter who will be 2 in June, so maybe I'm a little bit more conscientious of everything that's going on around me. But I'm not sure you had a chance to even see some things, Coach, man. But how do you feel about this? Just seeing those things and hearing those things.
Coach, it's heartbreaking. I have a year and a half old son at the house as well. So just being, like you said, much more conscious of those types of things, and really wanting to have peace of mind that where my son goes as he gets older, that he will be safe. That the school system that he will get to be a part of will be safe.
Yeah.
That's very important to me. My prayers go out to the people that were affected by that, and the young lives that were lost, and even the older lives that were lost in that heartbreaking event. That's just it's terrible. And I'm like you, Coach. I'm not into giving my opinion on politics and things like that. It's just you just hate to see the evil like that in the world. It's disheartening.
Yeah, that's true, Coach. And like you said, man, you're a positive person. I try to be positive too. I think even in this situation, you see what people are arguing online, but everybody is lining up with their party. If you're a Democrat or a Republican, and at this time, that really doesn't matter. We got to find a solution to it. So I'm like you, praying for better days and excited about the things that are here, because I believe God's going to bless us in some form or fashion. So prayers up for that. Well, Coach, again, I just kind of want to say that first. I don't want to make it a gloom show because it's going to be an amazing show. Coach, I know you a little bit, so I'm excited really just to hear your journey, Coach. Talk to us about your journey with basketball. Talk to us about how basketball got you to where you are right now. I'm excited to hear about your story, Coach.
Okay, yeah. So I'll go ahead and start and just reiterate where I'm at and what I do now. I am the head ninth grade coach and assistant to the varsity here at Meridian High School. I assist the greatest, the GOAT, man, and Coach Ron Norman, and blessed to get to work with him day in and day out. Just tell you a little bit about my story and how I got here. I grew up in Newton and fell in love with basketball on a concrete slab outside with a goal on each end in Newton, Mississippi. And that was kind of where my passion for basketball was instilled. And as I went throughout high school, my senior year, I had a coach that came in and took ownership of our program, and he really instilled a passion in me to coach, and that was the late great Coach Tommy Matthews. And so just really want to thank him publicly, even though he's not here with us anymore, for all that he did for me and the passion that he did instill inside of me to be a basketball coach one day. I went on from playing high school ball to redshirting at East Central Community College, and then going on from redshirting at East Central on to William Carey, where I played for Mississippi Hall of Fame head basketball coach, Coach Steve Knight, and played there with some really good teams, man. 2 years, we fell just short of the SSAC championship, which is the Southern Athletic Conference and Southern States Athletic Conference. And man, we're just a few points short of a couple championships there, but we made it to the national tournament twice. And man, we had some really good runs there. Moving on from William Carey, I got my first coaching job in the area down there in Forest County at Petal. I was totally unfamiliar with the place. Just made a connection through someone that I met at William Carey, who's my advisor, and he was on board at Petal, and he hooked me up with a student teaching gig there, and been able to be an assistant teacher at the same time, and also get to volunteer with the high school basketball program, which is where I began my coaching career, assisting Coach Todd Kimball, which is another great man that I was so blessed to have been able to work for and learn from for my first 3 years coaching. In my first year there, Coach Kimball said, "Coach, I don't have any positions on staff, but I've got to keep you here." He said, "I want you to be my next middle school basketball coach." And because the middle school basketball coach was retiring there at Petal. So for the next 2 seasons, he placed me at the middle school, and I was able to be the head 7th and 8th grade boys basketball coach and continue to assist Coach Todd Kimball at the high school. Well, then, like everybody knows, in 2020, when school shut down, a lot of people had some, life decisions to make, some things to think about, what's really important to us because of all of these weird things that happened when COVID hit. So we made a family-oriented decision to move home, which is home to my wife was Meridian, closer to her family. And man, we did that without jobs. We told Petal, we thank you for everything that you did for us. This has nothing to do with anything as far as the school system, because we were so happy with our jobs there and everything that was going for us. But my wife it was in her heart to move home, and it was in my heart to make sure that she got what she wanted in hers. So we were prayerful about that situation, and we decided to move to Meridian. And in that period of waiting, God was faithful. He provided jobs for us both here in Meridian Public School District. My wife had accepted a job as a kindergarten teacher at Poplar Springs Elementary School, and I accepted the job to come assist Coach Norman here at the high school. And man, it's been a great ride ever since. For 3 straight years, I've been assisting Coach Norman now. This is really going to be a special season coming up for us, as my first 9th grade group that I got to coach are going to be seniors now. That's kind of special. Yes. And man, that's just my ride. That's my journey. God was in it the whole way. I will say that, I met Christ when I was at William Carey, and my wife played a big part in that because she led me there. When I met her, and going to William Carey was the reason that I met my wife. I didn't meet her there, but going to William Carey was a pivotal moment in those events lining up. So God has used basketball in my life in a number of different ways, man. I just want to be able to use that same tool and that same vessel to reach young kids, young souls through this game that God has been able to, put such a desire and passion of in my heart.
Coach, I like what you said, and that's one thing that I try to emphasize to my kids on a daily basis is that basketball is a replication of life. And what I try to explain to them, or what that means is that teamwork, you have to work with somebody, in the work profession. You got to better have teamwork in your own household, hard work, being on time, work ethic, pushing through difficult times. Those are the things that we try to implement into our system. And again, you have to say it a lot of times because kids, kids are kids, teenagers are teenagers, and they don't see it right now. And so I'm hoping every day I try to plant a seed to make sure that those things are being done, Coach. So I really like what you said, and being a young guy, having that kind of wisdom, man, is amazing to see and amazing to be able to hear. And Coach, it's amazing to kind of hear your story as well. And one reason I did reach out is because ninth grade is where I started. And I'm saying all this for our young coaches. I think when you get an opportunity to be able to coach maybe at the middle school level or coach in the ninth grade, especially in ninth grade, because it's kind of a small replica of what high school varsity is, running your own program. Because a lot of times, if you got good head coaches, like I know you do with Coach Norman, they allow you to run a program like you want. Obviously, you still wanted to look similar to what varsity is doing on a consistent basis, but it gives you an opportunity to get your feet wet. It gives you an opportunity to be able to practice plan, scout, opportunity to be able to prepare game time speeches. It helps you with all those different things. So I think that's very, very pivotal. And I know that my time at Murrah High School, when I was a ninth grade coach, and even when I went to Germantown in my fourth year to be the JV coach, those things really helped prepare me for my position at Pisgah. And of course, I'm at Richland High School now in Richland, Mississippi. So those are, to me, are your ground working areas. And again, all the young coaches, don't shy away from that. Don't shy away from leading the young kids, because again, you're going to find your passion for it. You're going to be excited about it. And every game that you play is going to feel just like a varsity game. If you're blessed to be able to be in a league where you're playing a tournament, playing for a championship, it's going to feel like playing at the big house. So take pride in that. And that's something that I did see with Coach Collins, and we're going to talk about it later on in the interview, but that's something that he prides himself on, is just making where he is and what he's doing big time. And so I really like that. Coach, before we kind of get in the interview and talk a little bit more, of course, you had a historical program. So being at Meridian High School, the basketball programs, Coach, talk to us a little bit more about just the school, the community, of course, talk about some of your coaching staff, talk about some of your players. Just give us a little bit of insight for those who may not know as much about Meridian High.
Yeah. Well, man, I'll tell you, I've been quite a few places as a player, two different places now as a coach. And there's no place that I've loved like Meridian. When I got here, not just the basketball program, but the place itself, man, I really do. I love it here. I love the kids. I love the culture. And then, of course, I love the basketball culture. That's just, that's the icing on the cake. Here at Meridian, there's a total of 4 championships over time, a very, very successful program, 3 boys championships and 1 girls. And the lone girls championship is by our girls head coach, Coach Denisha Faulkner. So once again, as we already have, she still deserves that big congratulations for what she's done with her girls program here at the high school. Here in 1978, it was a coach by the name of Coach Don Evans that won the first boys state championship. In 2011, under the reins of Coach Randy Bolden, who is now Mississippi College's men's head basketball coach. He won the second boys state championship with a player by the name of Rodney Hood, which I'm sure many are familiar with. And, hopefully one day I get the opportunity to coach somebody at that level. I know that had to have been special for Coach Bolden, and just a really great opportunity. And then the third and last boys championship, hopefully we're planning on adding on to that. But the third and final boys state championship that was won was in 2017, led by Coach Ron Norman, his first year here at Meridian High School. And he has some very talented guys on that team as well, like the Brewer brothers, who are now playing at UAB, and several others that were a part of that team. And I believe around 7 of those guys on that roster are still playing college basketball. So, we do have we have a lot of talent to come from here. It's been a successful program ever since it's been a program, as far as I know. It's great to work underneath a coach of the caliber of Coach Ron Norman, and the way that he does things, man, it really is. And to be able to work under him and then be able to work alongside Coach Nisha Faulkner as well, to be able to see those coaches do their thing daily and just learn from them, man, it truly is a blessing. Just to speak on the administration here, man, our administration is so supportive. I don't think that we could find a better group of admin as far as our head principal and her assistants, and also our head athletic director, which is Dr. Cheyenne Trussell. Man, he's the best in the business. So, I just really commend them for the job that they do, the way they support us and put us in positions to win. And I think that plays a big part in the success of Meridian High School basketball.
Coach, that is dating, I guess, going back to my high school year, my senior year in high school. Meridian and Merle High School was in the same district, and we played Meridian 5 times that year. Obviously, we played them home and home. We played them in the district title game. Then we played them in the North State. At that time, it was called the North State Championship. And then we played them for the state championship. And
wow.
Playing a team that many times is very, very difficult. We were blessed to be able to come out with the victory. At that time, Coach Ernie Watson was coaching Meridian High School. Obviously, he's at Hattiesburg now. Finally got him a championship, well-deserved for Coach Watson. They had, their main player was Cyrus McGowan. So Meridian has always been a staple even back then. And one thing that everybody knows this, Coach, and again, it is so hard to win at Meridian High School, Coach. I don't know what it is, man. It is super difficult to win at Meridian. It doesn't matter who it is. Of course, I know when Coach Bolden was there, I heard him talk about it. Like, his record at home is just amazing when you hear it. And I can just remember, I remember when Lanier came down there, when Monte was there and they played Meridian. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Lanier had to hit a half-court shot, bank it off I think Monte banked it off the glass just to beat Meridian. So to kind of put that in perspective for our fans that are listening, that's one place that you don't want to go if you're in the playoffs, because the atmosphere is amazing. The fans are super respectful and they're passionate about their program. And it's just a sight to be able to see. So Meridian has great tradition. Randy Bolden, of course, is doing a great job at Mississippi College. Hopefully to have him on soon. I do know Coach Norman. When I first saw Coach Norman, obviously he was at Wayne County at the time. And everybody knows this who know Coach Norman. He used to wear that bright orange jacket. So it was cool to see that. And even I know when he went to Meridian, he had to rock the blue jacket. Now, one thing I know about Coach Norman, he don't stay in that jacket long. He gonna wear it good enough for you to see it, then he gonna come out of that jacket. So Coach Norman is a good guy, man. I haven't had a personal conversation with him, but from the small interactions that I had or just seeing him from a distance, you can tell that people really like what he is doing. Of course, Coach Faulkner on the girls' side, again, she is passionate. Like, her energy is a replication of what her team looks like. Again, she is fierce. She is very passionate about what she does. I had Coach Foster on a couple episodes ago, and she spoke very highly of Coach Faulkner. So definitely want to reach out to her and hopefully get her on the show as well. I heard her speak at the clinic, and our thing that I picked up from her during the clinic was the culture. Like, she talked about so many things that she does for her girls throughout the year. And the second thing that stood out to me was just being demanding excellence every single day from our girls. And so that was a sight to see. So you are blessed to be able to be in an area where you can see two coaches at their peak doing great things. And I believe that that's going to rub off on you, Coach. And I'm just praying blessings on your life that you continue to do something great like that. Because, again, you have been around greatness, which kind of leads me to my next question. You talked about playing at William Carey for Coach Knight. Coach Knight is a legend at William Carey. I was kind of doing some research, and I may be a little bit wrong with my numbers, but I know he's been there at least 41 years. Hopefully that's correct. So, Coach, talk to us about playing for Coach Knight and what he has done at William Carey, because as I talk about on most of my episodes, I love a good basketball story. I love a good volleyball, football, baseball story. And when I think about Coach Knight, it kind of reminds me of Jim Boeheim. Like, he was at Syracuse for so long. When you think about Syracuse, obviously you think about Coach Boeheim. And when you think about William Carey basketball and what he's doing, or what he has done and continue to do, it's amazing. So talk to us a little bit about just playing for Coach Knight and some things that you learned from him.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Man, X's and O's was one of the biggest things that I learned in my time playing for Coach Knight. Knowing that I wanted to be a coach one day, and just paying attention to those types of things in practice, in film session, and that type of stuff. Like, I graduated college, and before I stepped into being an assistant in high school basketball, I already knew all the ways to guard ball screens. Whether it was ice, a hedge, or push up and go underneath, and all those different things, how you tag a back screen, or, a bump across screen. Like, those things were, taught on the daily in Coach Knight's program. So, the defensive side of it was a big part. Also, just learning X's and O's offensively and how to get your best players shots. Those things were big. And I didn't realize how much they were going to help me until I got into my coaching career. And I realized, how that wealth of knowledge did help me early on. And just understanding and being able to reiterate what the head coaches that I was working underneath were saying in practice. Because I wasn't just more or less just regurgitating what they were saying. I actually understood what they were saying and what they were trying to teach. Which was one thing that Coach Norman told me when I got here, was like, he told me, he said, "Coach, I just feel like we speak the same language, speaking on the same wavelength." I remember Coach Norman, he told me, when I got here, he said, "Coach, I'm not going to have you long." But thankfully, I have got to spend 3 seasons with him. And, I do look forward to being a head coach, but I've enjoyed every moment of being with Coach Norman thus far. But having said that and brought Coach Norman back into the picture, Coach Norman also played for Coach Knight at William Carey. He did. And I am blessed and honored to be amongst the coaches that Coach Knight has pushed out of his program. There's so many coaches across the state of Mississippi played for Coach Knight, and I am nowhere up to par as many of them. Coach Norman being one of those, Coach Seaver Wyndham being one of those at Biloxi, Coach LaRon Brumfield at Oak Grove, and many others. There are college coaches across the state. The assistant coach was on staff when I was there at William Carey, Coach Scotty Fletcher. Scotty Fletcher is the women's coach at Pearl River Community College. And he's won I believe, what is the equivalent to a state championship now at that level. And so, just it goes to show, what being underneath a good coach and a great program, a great coach, Mississippi Hall of Fame coach, and a great program, his great program. It just goes to show the proof is really in the pudding, and what coaches go on to do and how successful they are over time. That it's a large credit to what Coach Knight has done for us.
Coach, that's major, man. And that's something that I want this podcast to grow into, is building relationships, because without each other, obviously without God first, without each other, it's hard for us to be able to blossom and flourish. So if we can get some guys to mentor some guys, lead some guys, or lead some young ladies, guide some young ladies in this game of coaching, I see the game flourishing in so many different ways. And just not basketball, football, baseball, softball, track, all of those different things, because it makes a major difference about your coaching tree. And prayerfully one day I have a fruitful coaching tree. You do the same, like you say, with Coach Knight. Didn't realize, I heard those stories of before. I remember Coach Wyndham and Biloxi, but I didn't realize that many guys played for Coach Knight. And that's a major accomplishment. And for him to still be doing it that long is a good thing. Coach, I want to talk about what I saw. Again, I talked about earlier, your social media, your page, you keep it, you represent well, you represent Christ, you represent yourself, Meridian. But this is the tweet that really drew me to wanting to have you on the show, but also getting to know you. And I saw this when you first tweeted it about 2 years ago, but you still have it with pride. And I'll read it. It pretty much, Coach Collins said, "I don't have an assistant coach. I don't have a manager, but I will still treat this stuff like it's Duke. Every job is D1. So this is how my team will see their numbers on game days. No, it's not just ninth grade basketball. I'm setting the standard. And it obviously had a good win. And hopefully you get a chance to check out Coach Collins' Twitter page, and you'll be able to see it for yourself. But he got the jerseys lined up. I see trophies in the picture. He got the shoes. He got the warm-ups. He got his kids a bottle of water. And that's major, Coach, because some individuals, some coaches, and a lot of them are coaches that may have been coaching for a while, and maybe ninth grade is something they want to transition from. But to be able to see the passion that you put into that is amazing, man. Talk to me, why was it important for you to make Meridian ninth grade basketball team feel like you compared it to Duke University, one of the greatest college programs basketball-wise of all time? Why was it important for you, or why was it important for you to be able to implement that kind of thought process for your kids?
Well, as much as it was important to me, I would just like to say this kind of how I'm ingrained. Ever since I was a high school basketball player, like I said, when I played for Coach Tommy Matthews in high school, he just taught us to put everything we have into everything we do. I'm a big believer in how we do anything is how we do everything. Our habits carry over into other areas of our lives as well. That was before I got here, but I got here with Coach Norman, and he preached the same stuff. Man, he was telling me when I accepted ninth grade coach, he said, treat every job you have like it's the greatest job in America. And we think so much alike on those types of topics, on really all topics of basketball and in life as well. So it's important to me that I do take pride in what I do. My life verse is Colossians 3:23. Work hard, work whatever you do, work hard as if working for the Lord, not for men. I want to work hard in everything that I do and put as much pride and effort as I can into every ounce of what I do as a basketball coach. For the betterment of those young people, I want them to take pride in things too. I want them to see, I want them to walk in their locker room on game days and have a sense of pride about Meridian Wildcat basketball, because those ninth graders are going to be the varsity players one day. And if they already have that mindset, then half the battle is won. Because if they're going to transition to varsity guys and they take care of things themselves, it's just an expectation. I tell them that I'm going to take care of them, and that they need to take care of us as well. That they need to take care of their living space. They need to take care of their locker room. There shouldn't be anything on the floor. There shouldn't be any trash that's not in the trash bins and those types of things inside of our living space. We're going to take care of our house because it's ours. And the reason I say I treat it like it's Duke, and I say that every job is Division I, is because a lot of coaches have dreams and aspirations of being that Division I coach one day. I try to treat it as if I want to be where my feet are, and just allow God to direct my steps and direct my path. So whatever's next for me, I want it to be the job that God had for me. So I try not to think too much about that. I try to be all in where I'm at, and then just allow God to hopefully bless me for my work, and just use me as a vessel for Him. And that's something that's very important to me as well. But once again, the reason I say that I treat it like it's Duke is because I'm a big Duke Blue Devil fan. Sorry, I just messed that up. But I'm a very big Duke Blue Devil fan. And me and Coach Norman, we get in some healthy competition there because he's a North Carolina fan. So there's a big household split there amongst the staff, and the other coach on staff is also a Duke fan. So that's some friendly competition there. But treating this stuff, when I say I treat it like it's Duke, I try to treat it as a Division I program would. And that's not for me to brag or anything, saying that I work so much harder than everybody else. No, I just want people to understand that, man, it is important to work hard for your kids, to put that time and that effort into it. As much as we expect of them, the least we can do is turn around and do that for them. So I think it goes a long way with the kids. I think they see that, and I think that they have a much higher level of respect for adults that that want to pour into their lives, and not just treat it as if this is just how I get paid.
Coach, easier said than done, man. But that is very, very key. And what I mean, easier said than done, is every day, and coaches know this, and maybe those down the coaching world don't know this, that coaching is a tough job. And sometimes in the grind of it, sometimes you do forget why you got into this, or sometimes you do forget to do the small things. So I'm glad you said that, because I think that's a reminder for all coaches, especially those who are a little bit more seasoned, to remember what is your purpose, and what is your calling. And I think that's important. Second thing that you said is being where your feet are. Of course, it's a very popular statement and quote that you hear a lot of coaches are saying, but that's important. And sometimes it's also difficult sometimes as a coach to have your feet planted at a particular area, because a lot of times there are other job opportunities that come up. There are your aspirations to be able to chase those championships, chase those college jobs. Sometimes there's an aspiration just to be able to beat the team across the road from you, or across the state lines from you. But you have to remember, if you can concentrate on doing the best you can that day, everything will take care of itself. And that's something I try to remind myself, is just being planted here, because a lot of times you will miss a good opportunity because you're not focused on where you are. And I can speak to that. When I left Meridian High School, of course, was a tough time not getting the job that I felt I wanted and deserved. And so I was blessed to be able to be hired at Germantown High School with Spencer Gatlin. And the whole time I was there, at least the first few years, I was trying to get that year over and get to my new spot, because I had already had a taste of being a head coach, as being an interim coach. And now I was in an assistant position. And I had that feel, and I had that the desire, and I constantly was looking ahead and not learning why God had me there. And Spencer had to just tell me, like, hey man, like, you gotta take this time and do what you're supposed to do, and everything else will work itself out. The more you keep looking and you keep chasing down that road, this spot where you are now can become miserable, and then you're gonna miss something. And so I had to take his advice. Of course, he treats me like he my big brother, but I love Spencer, and I'm like, man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And to be honest though with you, coach, I listened to him a little bit, but I still kept on chasing that dream. When I was blessed to get my first head coaching job, maybe a couple months on the job, the Lord hit me and said, this was Spencer was trying to tell you. And all those things that he was trying to tell me, it was to prepare me for that moment to be a head coach. And of course, I had to humble myself and say, hey, man, I apologize for not being maybe the best assistant coach at times. I'm similar to you, coach. I took pride in being an assistant coach. But I knew sometimes I did fail him. And so I had to humble myself and say, hey, man, I apologize for that. And he said, man, I trust me, I understand. You did what you had to do when it came to fulfilling your duties as an assistant coach. But I saw the hunger that you wanted, but I knew it was coming. So again, coach, you are very wise beyond your years, man. And of course, hopefully that helps somebody, even somebody right now who's listening. You may be an assistant coach and you may see other coaches get hired for head coaching position and keep wondering why you keep being looked over. Maybe God has you here for a reason. Similar to your story too, coach. Going to Germantown was a good thing for me because I met my wife there, and of course, the rest is history. Just like you were at William Carey, you met your wife, and the rest was history. So a lot of times it's really not up to you. God got another plan for your life. So again, I'm loving these facts that you're dropping, coach.
Yeah, coach. And if I may add, I will
Go
say
ahead.
too, I have put in for a head job before and been passed up for that head job. So I, like you said, I've been there with the aspirations and everything too, and I still do. I want to be a head coach. But I know that it's God's path for my life, and his plan is what's going to be best for me, not my own personal wants and what I think is best for me. So, although I do still have those aspirations and I'm working towards those daily, I also will say, and once again, just commend him and thank him for all that he does. which is with Coach Ron Norman and the way that he wants his assistants to be head coaches. Man, because I'm in an environment like that, I can focus on my job here because he's doing as much or more work for me to be a head coach as I am. So man, that's what's so big is that I can really focus on the task at hand because he's as forward thinking as anybody, and just as much as I am about my own future. And like I told you, when I got with him, he told me, he said, "Coach, you're not going to be here long. You're special, and I'm thankful that he thinks of me that way. But when that right job opens, he's going to push me out that door." So and I'll be willing to take that next step. But I'll be forever grateful when that time comes that I had spent these however many years it is or will be with Coach Ron Norman, man.
Coach, I thought about something when I heard you talking about this, and I think this is important for coaches to hear. Talk to us about that process when you apply for a head coaching job, and then, coach, you get that phone call or maybe an email that you didn't get the job. Talk to a little bit about that, because a lot of us coaches, especially for those who may have been Danny Dozen, All State, etc. Rejection is different when you apply for a job and you don't get it. So, coach, I can remember my first rejection of when I applied for a head coaching job and didn't get it, and had a number of rejection, coach. But, coach, talk to us a little bit about that process. And
is that I spoke with Coach Norman before I put my name in the hat for that job, and I went through the interview process. I felt like I did really great in the interview. I had a lot of confidence about my chances. And then, they went with the other guy, which, when looking at the other guy's resume, he had the better resume than me. And I think they hired the right guy for that job. I really think they did. And I think that rejection, it humbled me some, but also it's part of my story that, that God has something else for me later. And I just have to trust that and, be faithful to knowing that God does have my best interest in mind, and that my plan may not always be the best plan for me, and it may not always be the best plan for the purpose of His kingdom, which is the most important thing. I feel like my ministry here, just being able to pour into these kids here at Meridian, I feel like it's been important. I have fell short at times, but I just, I don't take that lightly, and where God has placed me and what He has me doing. So I will say to the other assistant coaches that are looking to level up, man, if you will just put the time, the work in, and that time is going to come. That's something my high school coach used to always tell me, and I've trusted it ever since he told me that, and just believed in those words. He always used to tell me, "Your time will come." Of course, I get to college after being the man in high school. I'm in college now. Everybody's just as athletic as I am. I'm not the man anymore. I'm having those frustrating conversations with my high school coach, and he's just encouraging me, telling me, "Hey, just keep working, put your head down and work. The time will come." And I didn't realize that he was right, but that came more as a coach for me than it did a player, because now I really feel like I'm living out my purpose. As much as I enjoyed playing basketball, man, I love coaching it even more. So, just at the end of the day, regardless of what we're doing, if we're getting paid to coach this game, we're blessed, because there are a lot of people that have, jobs where they don't get to go to work and enjoy what they do. They just have to go to work so that they can provide for their families. But we're providing for our families, doing something that we enjoy. So that is a blessing. But I'd say how to handle that rejection process, man, just until you've accepted a job, continue to be where your feet are. Because I didn't quit doing what I was doing with the ninth grade or with the varsity or anything. And a matter of fact, I actually asked Coach Norman, I said, "Coach, we got a game on it was a summer game." I said, "Coach, we've got a summer game. We got a game on this day. They want me to come interview." And he said, "Man, if you don't tell them that you'll come interview," he's like, "you better not turn that interview down and make them wait on you." And I was like, "Well, Coach, I didn't want to miss the game. So, I'm a young assistant coach. I don't really know how it works." But he's like, "Man, look, we got this, and we got you. We'll cover what you usually do in your absence." He's like, "You ain't got to worry about that. Go interview for that job." So, once again, I know, realize people, not everyone is as fortunate as I have been to work for the people that I've worked for and how supportive they are of me and my future. Once again, because as a head coach, man, I see the things that are on his plate, and for him to take all of that ownership of it, work so hard with all that, and then still care about promoting me and who I am as a coach, and trying to make sure that I'm set up for the future as well. Once again, I can't say enough good things about working for somebody like that, like working for Coach Norman. And man, I would say, one final piece of advice: just trust the Lord through all things and through all phases of life. Even if I haven't been in a position yet, or hopefully won't be, to where I'm ever relieved from a job. I've been passed over for a job, but never relieved from a job. So, but even if something like that has happened to you recently, just trust that God has something for you, because the Lord tells us in His Word that He will provide. It may not always be what we want, but it's going to be what's best for us according to His terms. So,
Coach, that's major, Coach. Coach, you bringing it today, man. I'm sitting here thinking, man, I'm like, man, this guy has a lot, man. And almost, as the older guys used to say, man, you must have been here before. And there's so many things as you said. I like the last part, Coach. And to be honest, I have been blessed. I have not necessarily been removed from a job, but I think that's encouraging, because it may be someone on this episode who's listening that may be in that position right now. And trusting the Lord is very, very important, because He's going to lead you, He's going to guide you, and you trust Him with all your heart. You lean not on your own understanding, acknowledge Him in all your ways, and as you said, He's going to direct your path. That's a strong proverb that I live by as well. So I think that's major, Coach. And I thought about the rejection part where you talked about the interview process. And when you interview, and I talk about this a number of episodes. I have talked about this for a number of episodes. And the reason I do it, because it's important, because I learned a lot, and I'm trying to just share a little bit more information. And when I heard you talk, I was sitting here just writing down some of the jobs that I applied for, and I was rejected. And I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. I have about 5 jobs on here that I've been rejected from, excuse me. And when I look at all those jobs, Coach, I reflect back and I look at the situation. I looked at the person that they hired. And this is what the biggest thing I learned about the hiring process. You have to do your groundwork early, as we talked about in the episode with Coach Porter from Pelahatchie. You have to be able to network in a way where you have other connections that is going to speak on your behalf. That's why you said it earlier, Coach Norman is going to be major for you, because again, he has established roots in his basketball game, and his words, like other coaches who have done what he has done, carries weight. And then also too, the one thing I learned is you have to learn how to maneuver in an interview. As I look at all of these interviews that I applied for, when I walked into the room and as I began the interview process and worked my way through the interview process, I could almost, probably out of 4 out of 5 of those jobs, maybe 5 for 5, I knew that I wasn't going to get the job. And not because I was not qualified for it, it's because of some of the things that I already said. Sometimes the job is almost not given away, but sometimes they already have who they want. And sometimes they got to go through just the process of interviewing a certain amount of individuals or a certain amount of people. I guess a better choice of words. And then sometimes there's just better candidates for you. So I always learn from each interview process, but I'm giving this information out to all coaches. When you go to the interview process, read the room, listen to the words that they're saying, listen to certain key phrases, catchphrases, because those are going to give you a vibe of where they're going, and it's help you prepare for next time. And so their rejection is not so bad. Because when I first got rejected, I almost felt like I got my heart broken. I almost went home, got me a tub of ice cream, watching me a little sad movie. I'm like, man, they don't want me. But then I had to realize I had some coaches in my life who told me, Don't take it that personal. It is a business. I say that all the time when I look at the NBA when they trade players. Coaching doesn't matter if you're in the NBA, college, high school, junior high. It's a business. It's nothing personal. They just want to be able to put the best guy or young lady in the spot where they feel at that time is the best. And as I look back at a lot of these places where I interviewed, I can look at one of these places, coach, I traveled all the way 3 hours away and 6 hour round trip just to apply for a job. And when I got there, after I finished the interview, they had already hired somebody else anyway. So I took that long drive. I went to one interview. I was applying for a boys job. They had already hired a boys job. Thank God I did pretty good. He asked me, hey, coach, would you be interested in coaching girls? Because he felt like, man, this was a pretty good guy, but we've already got who we have. I interviewed for another job, and the principal at that time had a prior relationship with the coach that they was bringing from the previous school where they worked. So they just meshed like this. So a lot of times when I go into these interviews, I'm going in with my confidence in God, and I'm not taking it personal, whatever the result's going to be, because you said it, coach, what God has for you is for you. So, man, thank you for that, man. Again, I'm praying to hit somebody in a certain way, help somebody out, because it's major. I saw where Meridian has really spent a lot of funds to update a lot of things involving Meridian. I'm just talking about the athletic part. I'm not going to talk about the academic part, but I've seen some things about the football stadium and, of course, the other facilities on campus. Coach, talk to us about why it was major for Dr. Trussell and those who were involved, other stakeholders, to get you all that gym floor and the other things to upgrade that facility. Because why was that so important to the program and just the city of Meridian?
Man, once again, I can't say enough great things about our athletic director. Dr. Cheyenne Trussell is the best in the business. And when he got here, one of the things he did immediately, he actually came in the same year I came in. I was hired with, I think at the time it was between athletic directors. So they were still working in that hiring process. And during that time, whenever I interviewed on the phone, it was just with Coach Norman. And like I said, it was over the phone because of COVID and those types of things. But whenever things opened back up and teams were getting back to athletic practices and things like that over the summer, Dr. Trussell brought in each staff amongst the various sports here at the high school. And I assume at the middle schools as well. And what he did was he walked around with our facilities director here of the district, Clay Sims, himself and the staff of each sport, and went through each particular set of facilities that were used by those sports. And he took their requests with pen and paper. He wrote down notes of what are our needs and what are our wants. And we discussed those things with him as we did our walkthroughs. And of course, you're walking around thinking, well, this is the new athletic director. He's doing this so that he can, please his coaches and make the good relationship or whatever. He's going to say he can do what he can, and then it's probably going to be the end of it, right? Man, not with Doc. Not with Doc. Doc goes to bat for you, man, and he works so hard and really fights for his athletic programs. But once again, thankfully, here at Meridian, you don't have to do a whole lot of fighting because people are on board. The community is going to be on board with it. That's how we were able to pass this bond issue not too long ago. The school district's going to be on board with it. And obviously the coaches and the athletic staff are always going to be on board with it when we're talking about improvements and things like that. But man, when it comes to branding, like I have actually have the jacket on right now with the MCATS logo on the chest here. And man, yeah, Dr. Trussell, man, every year he gets us something new with this logo on it as an athletic staff. Something that was unique that he did that I really liked was that our first year here, he met with the staff and he talked about how he was going to bring it all uniform to one logo, this MCATS logo. Because when I got here, man, there was just in basketball inventory alone, there was several different logos and styles of branding and that type of stuff. And there was the old Kansas State cat head and stuff like that. There was on different different things across the district's athletic gear or whatever. But he wanted to bring it all uniform and brand us well and bring us all together with this MCAS logo where all sports use the same one. Then, of course, moving into years after that, we consolidated one of the middle schools. We only have 2 middle schools instead of 3. And another thing he wanted to do, and this was at that time as well, is he wanted to make all of our middle schools, instead of separate mascots, he made all of us the Wildcats. And that's from the 7th through 12th. So, like, you know, and even when we're talking about the elementary schools, we call everybody the Wildcats now. And I think that was really big. I really love the uniformity of everything. You know, it's just far as society as a whole and all the division and everything that is so prevalent in society, man, as much as we can become one and be on the same page, you know, one accord with one another, I think that's big. And then just giving the community a sense of pride, something to be proud of, because, man, you would not believe the comments that we hear on a daily basis still about the facilities. When people walk in, there was actually somebody that walked in the gym just a couple days ago and shook my hand and said, "Coach, you see that picture on the wall over there?" He said, "I was on that 1978 state championship team." And he was up here, Dr. Trussell, man, but he was taking a look at the facilities, man, and he was so happy to see all the things that Dr. Trussell's doing for our athletic program here. Man, it speaks volumes of, you know, just when you take care of something, it goes back to what we was talking about a while ago. You know, as athletic coaches, we're supposed to take care of our locker rooms and take care of our facilities. And, you know, we shouldn't be afraid to pick up a mop and a broom and do things that have a sense of pride in our facilities and what we do in our house. And thankfully, we work for a boss, and our athletic director he's not afraid to put in the work, man, to take care of the facilities and to take care of us. He does such a great job of branding. One thing that has resonated with me that he says, and I'll bring it with me everywhere I go, is he says we have to tell our own story, because if we don't tell it, other people are going to be telling it, and they're going to get it wrong. Yep. So if we don't tell our own story and put ourselves in that positive light that we want to be in, and yeah, man, as you're sharing the picture there, that's our court. He's done some great things for us with the upgrading of facilities, and man, you see the air duct there with the Wildcats and the MCAS logo on it as well. He got us air conditioning in the gym, which is big for summer sports and things like that, and being able to host tournaments and things moving forward. So he's done so many great things, and continuing to work on a daily basis to make sure other things are still happening for us.
Yeah, and Coach, I sorry I cut you off, man. I didn't mean to cut you off from what you were saying earlier, man. I was just trying to put because sometimes people have to see that visual. And again, I love the whitewash, as they call the floor, the light version of the floor. I really enjoyed that feel for it. And again, Coach, you can imagine, you know, the pride that, like you said, when that guy came into the gym and he saw that, you can just imagine just the pride that just went on, probably just reflecting back on when he grew up, seeing the gym and just reflecting. So to be able to see that, I know that took a lot for him to just reflect and just show appreciation for it. So I thought that was pretty cool, Coach, with that. Coach, let's talk a little basketball. You kind of led to it a little bit. I think you led to a little bit when you talked about just, you know, gleaning from Coach Knight, talking about working with Coach Norman. Now I start out with this one. I'm not going to ask this, but it came to me. I talked to Coach Tadlock. Obviously, Coach Tadlock worked with, I think, 1 or 2 years with Coach Norman. And we talked about that half-court 2-2-1. Coach, talk to us about, and I'm not sure if Coach Norman still runs it or not. I haven't seen Meridian play in a couple years. But I'm guessing that was always a staple of what he did, especially when he was at Wayne County. So I'm assuming he's probably still doing it. Coach, talk to us a little bit about the 2-2-1 half court or 3-quarter court that has been ran successfully by Coach Norman.
Yeah, Coach. And before I got with Coach, man, I was such a man coach, and just just personally, in my own opinion, I thought that one day as a head coach, I would be primarily man to man and nothing else. and which I still love man-to-man defense and just being able to be fundamentally sound and guard, people just straight up. But I have fell in love with his ideology of that 2-2-1 and speeding teams up and just getting them out of what they do. Yeah, that 2-2-1, man, it's tough. When you get kids to run it right, and I've had to watch him, the first few months teach it before I was really getting in and teaching it myself. Like I said, I learned a lot of things from Coach Knight, and we did run a 2-2-1 at William Carey, but I guess I just didn't pay as much attention to the zone side of things, or zone press side of things, especially half court trap and that type of stuff, as I did the man-to-man principles and stuff that I love to learn about. But Coach Norman's 2-2-1, man. He's the rotations have got to be there. It's got to be hard traps. Obviously, your presses are only going to be as good as your traps, because if you're not putting a whole lot of ball pressure on the ball, then if teams are just able to throw it where they want to throw it to, making direct line passes or baseball passes over the top of your traps, then it's going to be hard to get closed in and wall those guys up and make the ball go where you want it to go. But man, yeah, that 2-2-1, it speeds teams up. It gets teams out of what they do. And one of my favorite things is I'm a big believer in that high school teams have high school kids. And usually your third, fourth, and fifth option are just not going to hit shots as high of a clip as your first and second option are, And for a lot of teams, man, it's a drastic fall off after your first option. So, if you can get into a defense that gets the ball out of that best player's hands, like the 2-2-1, and puts it in positions that, guys may come through and hit that corner three. But one thing Coach Norman likes to say is, are they going to hit that three all night? And I know Coach Norman he always said that Coach Tadlock used to say, play the percentages. And I heard him say that whenever he was on the call with you here, and when I watched his interview, and I was like, man, the similarities of the things they're talking about, man, it's crazy how great coaches think so much alike. But man, I'm a big believer in it now. He's made me a believer, and he's won with it everywhere he's went. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Coach Taylor was talking about the percentages, and he was talking about because he said it, and we've all, I think, as coaches, been maybe caught up in this. Sometimes we press and they score that first basket or make that first shot. Oh, we got to get out of it. But Coach Taylor talked about you gotta work through it. You gotta look at the percentages, because they may hit the first shot. Okay, 1 for 1. May hit the second shot. That's 2 for 2. But it could be where he shoot the next 6, 7, 8 shots. Now he's 2 for 8, 2 for 9, 2 for 10. So those are the things you got to trust. Now, he did say that. He said, now, if the guy hitting that shot over and over and over, we might want to get out of it and then come back to it. So it is a percentage game. But as coaches who hate to give up points, and in your back of your mind, like, I'm going to get out this press, because some coaches don't believe in pressing at all. I listened to a lot of Jim Boone on how he plays his defense, the pack line defense. Coach Boone, he doesn't believe in pressing, because he said one of his biggest thing that he hates is to give up easy points. So you have to be able to, I think you got to play the percentages, because again, as Coach Justin Sanders at Germantown says, it's a high risk, high reward. So I think that's amazing, Coach. Coach, talk to us about your style. Obviously, as a ninth grade coach and been there, obviously, as we said earlier, you got to make it, look similar, but make it look a replica of the varsity. But coaches, and I know Coach Norman, allow you to be able to put some of your own flavor, your own spin into it, so you can get a feel for it. Coach, what are some things that you like to do defensively? And what are some things you like to do offensively that helps you be successful on the court?
Well, Coach, like because you've been a couple places and dealt with a couple different teams over your career, it matters what type of personnel you have.
Yes.
I've had a wealth of different types of ninth grade teams. This year we were really athletic. We had more dunks in ninth grade games than we had in varsity games this year. And, so with those athletic bigs that we had, we were throwing that ball inside a lot. kind of traditional, not a whole lot of dribble drive offense. I'm talking reverse that basketball, pin down screen, and throw it inside.
Yeah.
And even against the zone, we were doing some untraditional stuff like actually posting up the zone. We weren't even short corner. I'm talking about posting on the block against the zone. So just putting the ball in our best players' hands and positions to score. That's our job as coaches to put our kids in situations where they've seen before and they're comfortable, and places where they can actually score the basketball. If we're putting kids in positions where they're not going to be successful when they have the ball in their hands, then who are we to say point fingers and blame if they don't make that shot or if they don't make that play? So now I will say probably the most fun I've ever had coaching was whenever I had my first very guard heavy team, Meridian. We were real 4 out, 1 in oriented, dribble drive with a lot of ball screen action, loaded ball screens with the lift action out of the corner. So you could get that throwback hook pass and, you get post entries off of it or attack closeouts or knock down the three if they're late on the closeout. And I had some guys that could shoot it. So we hit that three a lot. But I really like those types of actions. Of course, I've followed, I'm only 28 years old. So having grew up in this new era of basketball, I love the new concepts. But I'm just as susceptible to going it, more traditional with it to back to the basket big if that's what we have and that's the way they can score the basketball. Now, defensively, like I said, before I got here, primarily man-to-man. I was a middle school coach for 2 years, and I didn't run zone defenses. It cost us a lot of games. It cost us some close ones. Yeah, if we would have ran 2-3 zone and packed that paint, we probably would have won some more. But I was a big believer in, like I said, just having that identity of the varsity program. And Coach Kimball was a big believer in man-to-man. Not a big zone guy. So I wanted my guys to understand man principles. And if it cost us a few games at the middle school level so that they could be more prepared to play at the varsity level, I just had to take those, lumps and bruises on the chin. But as I got here and I learned more about the 2-2-1 under Coach Norman, like I said, when I got here, there were some things I had to learn from him before I taught them. Of course, I get here and it's a whole new system. But him and Coach Kimball and Coach Norman speak the same language. Great coaches that understand basketball, man, you're going to find that like you can work for several different ones, but a lot of their concepts are going to be the same. A lot of their terminology is going to be the same. One may play a little bit faster, one may a little bit slower, or they may like more layups and 3-pointers where somebody else allows the mid range. And we don't get too far into analytics here. We like to see our guys be comfortable to go and make plays, rather than putting too much analytics in their heads and things like that. So defensively, when I got here, I started to do more zone and more half court trap with the 2-2-1 than I ever did whenever I was at Petal. And I was successful with it at the 9th grade level. This year, with the team that I had, man, I knew that if we were going to guard people straight up man-to-man, I was going to put my bigs in foul trouble because I was playing, some athletic guys are going to go play and challenge around the rim and things like that. So why not put them in space where they can go ahead and be at the rim and challenge those shots late and stay vertical rather than them having to chase guards all over the floor. Teams would just spread us out if we would have guarded them man-to-man. So we were more 2-2-1, back to a 2-3 zone and things like that. So really it's personnel based, man. Coach, just being able to adapt to your personnel, that's another thing that I've learned. And thankfully that I have learned as an assistant coach before I become a head from Coach Norman is that you have to be able to adapt with the personnel that you have if you want to maximize your success and what you have as far as a program. And in high school basketball, we got Coach Norman says a bunch of country sayings, man. So he says some things that like I had to figure out what the metaphor was whenever I got with him, man. Because but he says, but I understood this when he said it, and he said you gotta be able to play with the fish that are in your pond. He's a country guy from Bay Springs, so that's one thing that he says, man. You got to coach with the fish in your pond, which means that in high school you get the guys that you got that are walking your halls. You get the opportunity to go and recruit kids and bring them in and those types of things like college coaches do. So we don't get to recruit our personnel. We got to coach to what we have. So, that's the biggest thing.
Coach, that's major. When you was talking about making an adjustment to your personnel. It made me think about Coach Fox on the girls' side at Calhoun City. I saw him do an interview, and they asked him what his philosophy of basketball, and he said you can't really. He didn't necessarily say he didn't have one, but what he was saying is it just changes. And when I continue to listen, I said that kind of makes sense because you, like I said, you may want to be a team that plays back to the basket. But if you don't have, you got guys that's 5'7", your philosophy is probably going to change a little bit. So I do like how you said that you have, every coach has a philosophy. Every coach has a system that they want to run offensively and defensively. Obviously, we were in college, we could recruit to that. But I think that your philosophy has to change. And what I mean has to change, certain pieces of it may have to change. The foundation can still be the same, but you always have to kind of make some tweaks to make it fit the kids that you have. I laugh when you said analytics. Of course, my assistant coach, Coach Thad Bridges, who also head coaches our middle school, he's old school to the core, and so sometimes I throw those analytic things out to him, and he said, "Man, forget them analytics." So that's why I had to laugh at that. Coach, let me ask this first. I'm going to ask you about zone defense, but I want to ask this so I won't forget. I wrote this down. Who do y'all play? Who's on y'all schedule for ninth grade? Like, what are the teams that you all play? Who's in your district?
Typically, year to year, local teams we've played. Man, most of our games we have to travel to find larger schools, 5A, 6A. What will be next year 7A schools to get on the schedule. But we play equipment on a yearly basis around here. So he always did a great job of making sure that his ninth grade coaches were teaching the game and had their guys really competitive. So that was always a good game for us to play equipment. And then we play Oak Grove home and home every year. We play Hattiesburg home and home, which is a really good game for us every year. Both of those games, Oak Grove and Hattiesburg, are really good games for us. We play Starkville, which is, ever since I got here, I was the one that really wanted that Starkville game on the schedule because everybody talked about how good Starkville was, and they're just the program as a whole, but also their ninth grade year after year. So I was like, Meridian needs to be playing them. And I got with Coach Tony Minor, another Carey guy that, and I went to East Central with his son, small world, Carnell Minor, but we play each other now. So got Starkville on the schedule. Just this past year, we added West Point to the schedule. For a couple of years, we've had Wayne County on the schedule, but man, it always seemed like something came up to cancel the game. Man, the COVID years, we had COVID one game, got shut down for 2 weeks, and their school had COVID the next game, got shut down for 2 weeks. We didn't get to play each other. So we have got to play. My 3 years here, we have played Wayne County once. Now, just looking to continue to fill gaps in the schedule and get more and more games. My first year here as a ninth grade schedule, we had 6 games. Went 5-1, only had 6 games. So the year after that, we played 9, and then this year we played 10. Next year, I'm trying to get as many as I can on the schedule. I want to see 14, 15 games for the ninth grade. Me and Coach Norman think a lot alike when it comes to that. Actually, think identical when it comes to that. That it's important that the younger ages are playing games and they're getting that development because there's no substitution for game reps. So there's nothing I can emulate in practice that makes it like when those lights actually come on. I can put more pressure on the ball. We can work on beating a press with our press break and things like that. But when those lights are on, it's a different type of pressure. It's a different type of pressure to make that shot. Winning in a scrimmage is not at the same level of winning a game, and when you're under the whistle. So those reps are important, and that's something that we've tried to do is make sure that we take care of this ninth grade program here. So.
Yeah, Coach, I was surprised. I was thinking that you all probably were in a conference, but I do know that distance is probably an issue. My brother, Coach Justin Sanders, we talk about that all the time. How playing at Meridian, we always look at Meridian's schedule and what we have. Maybe not this past year, but we have looked at your schedule, and of course in the metro area. Of course, during the time when Coach Bolden was there, they would always come down. Of course, when Coach Norman was there, he played all over the state, and we just looked at the schools in the proximity of where you all are, and a lot of games you even got to travel on the high school level. So I was just interested in that because in this area down this way, obviously, in our bigger, I guess our 6A schools, which you said would be 7A next year, they play in the little six, and of course, so that's pretty major. I know when I was coaching in 9th grade at Murrah High School, we just pretty much played all the JPS schools. So I think that conference gives you a good feel if you can find some good competition. I thought about something else when you were talking, and I did want to say it is important. I like how you said Dr. Trussell made the mascots align from 7th through 12th grade. And it's different going to school here in Jackson. Most, I'm not gonna say all, but most kids probably had about 3 mascots. You had a mascot in elementary, a mascot in middle school, and a mascot in high school. And my wife thought that was so funny and just different because she is from Canton. And obviously, when you're in Canton, you're a tiger to the day you die. But I know I went to Chastain. I was a warrior at Chastain. Then when I went to Murrah, I was a Mustang. I didn't go to our feeder school, Boyd Elementary. So I'm not sure what their mascot, but I know it wasn't a warrior or a Mustang. So for those who did grow up, you had 3 different mascots. So that builds so much pride. And then obviously you had 2 different colors because at Chastain, I wore red and white. Then I get to Murrah, I'm blue and silver. So it's just so important to do that. I thought that was amazing. Before we get into our fast break questions, Coach, talk to me a little bit about zone. And I think you and I have similar backgrounds because we grew up playing man, and for some reason, some individuals think that playing a zone is not real basketball sometimes, or playing a special style of defense when it comes to like triangling 2 or diamonding 1 or boxing 1. Sometimes people don't value that. And when I first started coaching, all I ran was man. And at the 2A level, you saw a lot of zone. So to be honest, Coach, I didn't have anything necessarily that was considered to be a zone package to beat a zone defense. Because now, and you're starting to see it a lot more, there are obviously advantages and disadvantages to any offense or defense, but the zone presents problems for a lot of teams who may not be prepared for it, probably don't have an offensive package, or they don't see zone a lot. So talk to us a little bit. You did, and you can talk to us quickly about the zone. How did you become more of a zone guy and just feel comfortable with it and not necessarily fall into the trap of just always playing man because, well, that's what they do in college or that's what they do in the NBA? How did you kind of work that out? Because I think about Coach Nurse from Toronto. When he ran the zone in the NBA Finals, people talked about him like he was the worst coach ever. But when you think about it, and the team he was playing with Golden State, and you can tell him winning that championship, that zone created problems. And you see more zone now. The Miami Heat, they run a lot of different zone defense. The basic 2-3, obviously, it changes because in the NBA, obviously, you can't stand in a lane like we can do in high school. But the zone is so, it presents so many advantages if you can implement it correctly into your system.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. And it just goes back to what you said there just a second ago. There's so many coaches that, man, they have 1,000 different man sets, but when it comes to zone, they don't have a whole package because it's just not on the forefront of their mind. So running zone can just get teams out of what they do just by that particular fact alone. Also, it goes back to playing the percentages. Once again, if you're going to run a zone, especially if you're going to be in it for very long, you're going to give an uncontested shot here or there, or a late contest anyway. And, late close out to a guy shooting the ball in the corner on the wing and on a ball reversal, a quick ball reversal or a skip. And if that guy hits that 3, are you going to let it rattle you, or are you going to trust that, your concepts are going to keep you there? Now, one thing that is difficult to do out of the zone is the rebound out of the zone. I'm sure if you try to go zone for long, you got to make sure that guys are actively, going to the boards. In man, you can preach a lot of boxing out and things like that, but in zone, a lot of times you're not matched up well. You just got to get 5 dudes with 2 feet in the paint and then pursue the ball well if you're going to run a whole lot of zone. But when it comes to zone defense, I think it's playing the percentages and just getting teams out of what they're trying to do. Once again, if they got one really good player, then you can tilt the zone or key the zone on that person whenever they've got the basketball. I remember Clinton came to us. It was not this season, but last year, and Clinton had Kamani Hamilton, and they signed Mississippi State, son of Tane Hamilton. So, obviously a great player, and we weren't interested in just playing man versus man against a player of that caliber. So, we went zone and keyed on him. Of course, you're taking a risk because if a player like that gets to hitting shots against the zone, they put a guy like that at the high post and he just hitting that mid range or something, and he can really get going. But once again, you play those percentages. And he wound up having not a very good shooting night and only had 8 points walking out of there that night. And we beat Clinton at home. So I think that was that adjustment and just that game plan coming from Coach Norman's masterful mind that he has when it comes to seeing the game of basketball. He put that together in his mind saying that, okay, we're going to give them this rather than giving them this. So I got a good friend that likes to say, pick your poison. What do you want to give up? And you can't emphasize everything. So in a zone, you can emphasize 1 or 2 things and take those away, but you're going to give up something else. So it kind of goes back to playing those percentages. And if you can get guys to play hard, still, it's hard to make shots against any type of pressure, whether it be a hard closeout in a zone or whether somebody was already there against you in a man. So it also comes down to the identity of the team that you're playing and what their strengths and weaknesses are sometimes.
Yep, Coach, that's true. And Coach, I can admit I was one of those coaches that didn't have a lot of zone package information. And I'm not afraid to admit it, Coach. I had to search online and I found me a great source. Obviously, I paid for a subscription and I was trained on how to be able to break down a zone and some things that I knew as a coach. I just never thought about implementing them for my players to be able to see. And so now we have terminology for everything that we do when we see any particular zone. Of course, like for example, I got it from one thing in the video that I got was called E2, engage 2 people. So we teach our guys, even if we go a basic 4 out 1 in or 3 out 2 in, if we can get into the gap, force 2 guys to guard 1 guy every single time when we make possessions or we make plays, somebody's going to be open constantly. And we constantly keep engaging 2 people every single time. Eventually we get a good shot. And now again, I knew that as a player because when we grew up, our high school coach would say, drive the gap and kick. That's the same thing, engaging 2 people. But again, when we grew up, it was just shoot them out their zone. But when you have to coach someone else and teach them, you got to have some terminology and some words that we can use on a consistent basis. And just that money was well spent. And I'm, again, not ashamed to say that. And I said that not to shine a spotlight on me, but to say there's resources out there for coaches. If you're struggling with something, there's people who got information that can help you. So use those things that are available for you. Coach, before I get to my fast break question, the main thing that I want to talk about, and I thank God I didn't miss it, is Coach Collins, of course, and his brother, Coach Chance Collins. They came together, if I'm not mistaken. If I left somebody out, please correct me, Coach. They created a group message for the basketball coaches in the state of Mississippi and those associated with the state of Mississippi in basketball. And what a great idea. Obviously, we have a directory where we can all look at the directory and look up everyone's number and email. But to have a group me the group me app where coaches can get on there, send a message real quick, send a blast message out to coaches everywhere. Like that message can reach individual down on the coast in Biloxi, maybe all the way up north in New Albany, in the metro area. To have coaches together in one group and build something is amazing. Of course, the Collins brothers are working on something where we can have a strong coalition of a basketball coaches doing major things. Of course, again, I'm not going to steal that spotlight. It may not be ready to be released right now, so I want to put Coach Major plan out there. But also, too, what has came out of that coaching message group is, of course, we have our coach, friend, associate from West Harrison. I can't think of coach name right now. I got to look at it, who sends the Bible verse out every single day. He doesn't miss it. And I'm going to look at it in a minute, and coach probably has his name. That's an encouragement that he's sending out to coaches all the time. So I want Coach to be able to talk to a little bit about that before we get in our fast break question. And then I also want him to talk a little bit too, this year during the MAC conference, obviously the Mississippi Association for Coaches clinic that we have in July. Of course, Coach and his youth, he got some guys together, sitting in the group message and said, we're going to start playing pickup basketball during the clinic time. Of course, maybe not the old guys can get out there, Spencer Gallon, just playing, but maybe not the old guys can get out there and ball, but some of the younger guys, some of the younger ladies can get out there and play. And I thought that was so amazing. Of course, I didn't get out there and hoop, but I thought it was amazing to be able to get coaches together during the clinic. It was something different. And I'm guessing, just knowing Coach, obviously it was about playing basketball, but I think just knowing Coach, it probably was about ministering to some other coaches, but also too networking and getting together and just having some fun, because a lot of times in this world that we live in, we got too many lines that divide us. So people say it all the time, athletics always brings a group of people together. So Coach, talk a little bit about the group message that we got going on, that again is a great thing, and talk a little bit about the hoop session that's taking place during the clinic, and then we'll get into our fast break questions and we'll get you out of here, Coach.
Yeah, Coach. No problem. So the group message kind of started. I pitched my brother the idea, and I was like, "Man, what do you think about getting this group message started, just to get a bunch of the coaches together? Everybody in one chat, and we'll see how it goes, and get as many as we can, and see what it can do for us." And we talked about some of the benefits that it may bring us, and man, it's been really great. Like anything that anyone does in coaching. I didn't reinvent the wheel with that. I actually stole it from somebody, because there's a bunch of group me chats and things like that amongst coaching friends and things like that. Also there's a large college coaching group me chat out there. So I said, what if we could just let's expand that, and let's make it all inclusive to anybody that coaches high school basketball in Mississippi. Boys and girls basketball coaches. If you're a Mississippi high school basketball coach, let's get as many as we can on one platform where we can just, one of the biggest things is sharing information, sharing open summer dates, sharing information with each other. Like you said, with Coach Aaron Dunklin. Yeah, that's the guy that daily posts those daily scripture and things like that, just to encourage one another. Thankfully, everyone's been very professional about it in the group chat, and has kept the clutter out. It's not too much going in there. It's not too much traffic, but it is used for what it is, what the intent was for. Being able to share information and those types of things, being able to post a job opening when somebody's got, an assistant spot on staff open, and that type of stuff. And the networking aspect of it is big. But just being able to get things out there to other coaches, like of course, we have access to all the great things that the MAC does for us, the MHSAA does for us. But the websites and stuff, we may not always be as quick to check those, but a GroupMe app can come to your phone like a text message. So, if they're posting it in there as well, it's not to replace anything. It's really just to be in addition to those other avenues that we have of sharing information and things like that. So the GroupMe chat was mainly to do that and get coaches connected. I feel like we're so divided sometimes as a state as far as it goes with like North Mississippi basketball. Sometimes Central Mississippi can kind of get pulled in each way, and South Mississippi basketball. So you're going to be identified in some area somewhere. Well, I've tried to get as many as I can from all over the state to join this GroupMe message, so that we're all kind of doing things together. Once again, on one accord, just as an organization, because we are the MHSAA. We are the MAC. I hope everybody is a member of that because there's so many great benefits of being a part of that as well. But, just getting everybody together. And then that was what the group message was about. As far as the hoop session at the clinic, yeah, man, us young guys still like to get together and play ball a lot. I still play in some rec tournaments and stuff myself. So I like to try to stay in shape with that because there's no other way that I'm going to get my butt off the couch besides going and playing basketball. But so, of course, I've got some, close friends that got into coaching too that I went to college with, and we used to play in hoop sessions and stuff together all the time back then. So anytime that we get together or see one another, we try to get together and play. But we was talking about the clinic, and we were like, man, y'all want to get together? We're all going to be at the clinic. Let's get together and hoop. And I was like, y'all know how many basketball coaches are going to be in this one city with us? I said, let's drop it in the group message and see who wants to play. I said, then maybe we can get a venue and we don't have to drive too far to play. So we actually had a couple of schools that were willing to open up their facility and just allow that to happen. So, we organized the hoop session. I'm looking forward to doing that again this year in the MAC clinic, getting together with other coaches. Man, I wish more older coaches would come out. If they realized the numbers that was in the gym, man, you could play one game and then sit on the sideline for the rest of the night if you want to, or just come out and hang out with us, man. The games that we lost and had to sit down a game, just sitting on the sideline and talking with other coaches was good. It was good fellowship with one another. So that's one of the biggest things. That term networking, I like it, but I don't like it at the same time because networking kind of sounds too professional. Sometimes I like to think of it more as building relationships, with other people. Not just how I can get to know this person so that they can help me later on. That's kind of what networking is. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that because you've got to do that in this business. You have to. Otherwise, everybody knows that it's not what you know, it's who you know. But go further than networking and, just build relationships with people. See what you can do for other people too, not just what they can do for you. That's one of the things that we get to do as coaches is do things for people on a daily basis, for young people, which is a special thing. So.
And that's cool. I may have to In the Sand podcast and Coach Sanders. We might have to come through the hoop session, man. But
yeah,
that's good. And I like that, Coach. I like the word using building relationships. Again, that sounds a little bit more. I guess a little bit, like you said, a little bit more chill. Again, when you think networking, I guess the first thing, now that you say that, I think about being in a big room, people dressed up fancy and people passing out business card, or people got this grand speech or this grand slogan that they're going to say. So I like that, Coach. Coach, let's get our fast break questions in, kind of get you thinking a little bit, kind of just pick your brain a little bit about some things. Of course, for those who may be new to the show, fast break questions. Obviously, we play basketball, and it just depends on the sport. I kind of changed the topic up. I changed the title of it up. If I'm interviewing with a football coach, I might talk about our 2-minute drill. So our fast break questions are something exciting, something a little bit different. All right, Coach. So if you had an opportunity to get a ticket to the NBA Finals Game 7 or a ticket to the National College Basketball Championship, which ticket are you taking, Coach?
I'm taking March Madness.
March Madness, okay.
Yeah, I'd rather go to the March Madness tournament. I'm a much bigger college fan than I am NBA fan, although I love to watch both. Basketball is basketball to me. And I would love to see, the NBA Finals Game 7, of course. That'd be a great atmosphere and get to see that talent level displayed. But man, the March Madness is something. It's in a league of its own. Like I know, there is nothing like March Madness. You don't get that in any other sport or in any other tournament of it, not even basketball. So it's really interesting. Like with the teams that are in it now, there's not a 1 seed left. So I think that would be something special to be able to get to see that national championship game, especially if it could come out with Duke being on top. Then I would especially love it then if Duke was in that championship game. So I definitely choose March Madness.
Man, it's crazy to see. It's crazy to see that the Blue Bloods are not really, they haven't been relevant in this tournament, just to say the least. It's maybe the first round or two, maybe, but Again, it's probably another conversation for another show, but I really think I think that the NIL, obviously transfer portal, I think that's really making a difference, because when you got a tournament and your blue bloods are not a major factor, that means something's a little bit different. The landscape is changing. All right, so we know your college favorite team is Duke. So let's flip it to the NBA and then maybe come back to college. Coach, and we had this conversation all the time. It's probably happening more often, especially because of the media this era that we in with this media that we have. Coach, who's just all-time NBA starting five?
All-time starting five. The older heads might get on me for this one, but I'm gonna have to go with Steph Curry at the point guard position.
Okay.
Gonna have to go with the greatest of all time at the 2, with Michael Jordan at the 2. Let's see. Could I move some multi-positional players around a little bit to make what I think would be the best starting five?
Oh yes, sir. It's the Innocent Podcast, man. Make it happen.
Okay. Let's do this then. Let's move LeBron to the power forward, which he's a 1 through the 4 anyway. So I can slide Kevin Durant into that small forward spot. So I got Stephen Curry, Michael Jordan, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and then man, that 5 could really be a toss-up between the second leading scorer of all time, or which would be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Shaq, which would be the most dominant big of all time. But I think just adding that scoring with Kareem, yeah, I'd have to go with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on that 5 spot. So I don't see anybody keeping up with that team anyway. Anyway that you make it out, that's too much firepower, and yeah, and for sure.
Yeah, that is, man. I got you for Steph Curry, MJ, KD, Bron, and Kareem. You and Coach Tadlock was the same. He slid LeBron James to the 4 because he talked about he loved having that stretch 4, being in that position. So
I missed that part. I didn't even see that, but
yeah. Coach, 5 most underrated players in the NBA of all time.
The 5 most underrated
players, man. These guys don't get the shine they deserve. 5 most underrated players in the NBA.
Okay, so my favorite NBA team is the Miami Heat. Okay. So I'm gonna say a Miami Heat player, because although a lot of people think he's appropriately ranked, I think he's underrated, which is Dwayne Wade. I think he's one of the most underrated players of all time, and what he did in his career.
Yeah.
Another one, which is he was sold short because of his injury, Derrick Rose. I think Derrick Rose is very underrated when we talk about all-time greats. Although, one way that I evaluate players is their longevity as well, but that's kind of unfair to him because of this said injury. But he comes back from injury and still has, a great career afterwards. As a Dookie, I'm going to say JJ Redick is underrated. I'm going to say the value that he brought to NBA teams was underrated. Although maybe as a player and rank that he's listed at, whatever that may be, whatever people may give him, that might be appropriate. But the value that he brings to teams, I wish JJ Redick would go and coach. I really do. Let's see. Another underrated player, I'd have to say Ginobili. Probably Ginobili for the Spurs and what he brought to the team. So many people gave so much credit, which I love this player too, the big fundamental, Tim Duncan, and everything that he did for the Spurs, because, man, obviously, like Pop gives credit to him. He says, when people ask Pop, what do you do to be such a successful coach? How do you go about, what things do you do to be as successful as you, Coach Pop? I think in one of his interviews, he says you draft Tim Duncan. And then, he gives a lot of credit to Tim Duncan, which it is a lot of credit to Tim Duncan, that Spurs success. But, man, a lot of credit goes to to guys that get overlooked like Ginobili that brought so much to the table.
Yeah.
And then another one that I think is, man, an all-time great, but he's not listed in anybody's top 20 or top, man, I don't know if he's in anybody's top 30. That's Ray Allen. And Ray Allen, as great of a shooter as he was, the only person to be able to beat his records was Stephen Curry. I don't think people give him the respect that he deserves. I think people kind of sell him short because of the player that he was when he got a little bit older and was still playing as an older guy, more of a spot-up shooter. But if you watch old tape of Ray Allen, that dude was different. He was tough. So I'm going to go with those guys as my 5.
That's not a bad lineup. D-Wade, D-Rose, J.J. Redick, Ginobili, and Ray Allen. All right, Coach, one more question, and then I'm going to let you close the show. Steve Nash or Damian Lillard?
That's a tough one, Coach. That's a tough one. Before I answer the question, let me say this. Had I not been a coach, or if I wasn't a coach, I would probably go with a definite Dame Lillard. Damian Lillard, because of his playmaking ability, shot making and stuff like that. But then, man, when you watch documentaries and stuff on, the career of Steve Nash and the impact that he had on his teams, I saw a stat one time about how many high fives that Steve Nash gave his teammates a game and stuff like that. Like, you don't realize the value that culture brings to a team until you pay attention to those types of things as a basketball coach. But even with that being said, I'm still going to have to give it to Damian Lillard. I think if we put a complete team around that guy, which we have yet to see, he's going to win. He would win multiple championships. He's as high of a level as any other guard in the NBA right now. So he just needs the supporting cast around him to be able to get it done. So I say Lillard.
Coach, I respect Dame, and again, he seems to be like a guy from my generation, big on loyalty. But it's tough to be able to see Dame in that position. And I don't know if Dame has gone too far where he can't back out and leave Portland because of all that he said. I listening to, of course, your guy J.J. Redick on his podcast. I really can tell that Dame is in Portland to stay. And that's very, very good. And that's very, very it's very, very good to see a guy who's confident in himself and don't have to worry about what other people are going to say, because he said, and you heard other people say this, and Charles Barkley says it all the time, a championship doesn't make me as a person. That's something that other people put value on, but a championship shouldn't determine who I am as a person. And he understands that there's levels to it. He understands that he may not go down as one of the best of all time. And I hate it too, but I understand it because you said it, Coach. He does so much for his team, but because of the team he plays for, and because of him in this era not chasing a chip, it's gonna hurt him. It's hurting him right now. I'm not gonna say in the long run. It's just right now he's just not brought up in that conversation. And Coach, if things keep going the way it is, we might have to put Dame Lillard on that most underrated players. Just because of the circumstance. So but big up to Dame Lillard, man. He's representing, he's standing true to what he believes. Coach, man, this was a great interview, Coach. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to continue this relationship with you. Of course, we had a couple conversations via text, via group meet, but it was good to be able to talk to you in this platform, and then hopefully outside of this platform we'll be able to talk more and grow from there, man. I'm excited about what's coming for you. Anybody who listens to this interview, Coach, they realize that your time is coming, and I'm gonna keep my eyes open and my ears open, as they say, and looking for where you're gonna land, because I think whatever God has for you is going to be for you, and you put him first. And when you put God first, he blesses you. And those who may not be, as strong of a believer, or those who may not be in the faith, I'm gonna use this platform and say, trust God. Hold him to what his word says. Spend some time in his word. Now, Jesus is not he's not a genie now. You ain't gonna be able to rub that jar and that blue little man come out or rub that jar and you know and make my wish come true. But he's gonna be able to be faithful to his word. So I just challenge all the coaches, you know, you may be trying to figure out, you know, where you want to be. And I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I just want to use my platform to share some good news that I have in my life and that helps me every day. Jesus helps me every single day, and I know he would do the same for you. You can see he's blessing Coach Collins in his life. So again, major up to you, Coach. And Coach, I'm gonna allow you to close the show, man. This is, you know, conclusion. The end of our segment. Again, I hate to be able to shut it down because it's such a great conversation. Again, you're such a great young, bright man in this game. And I'm just excited to just talk basketball. But I'm gonna allow you to, you know, end it, you know, end this segment. Of course, you can talk about end it, you know, maybe something that's on your heart, maybe something you want to share, maybe something you want to talk about more. But Coach, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Coach. First, I just want to say, man, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's my first time doing anything like this, but I really enjoyed it, man. I just love talking basketball. And then I really love talking just with other like-minded people when it comes to people that are other followers of Christ. Man, that's, you know, I think that's important in this game is that, you know, that we are a positive influence for these kids because we're going to be an influence one way or the other.
Yes,
We're
sir.
going to influence these kids. Well, as much time that we spend with our guys that we coach, we're obviously going to be some type of influence to them. So it might as well be positive. And the only person that we can truly look to see that perfect example is Jesus Christ. So if we can live like him in front of our guys and hopefully, you know, point them directly and indirectly to Jesus Christ, I think that's the most important thing that we can do as basketball coaches, more or less, more so than winning any game or anything that we can do for them athletically. Their soul matters most. But Coach, I don't really have anything else as far as statements or anything. I do have one question before I go that I'd like you to answer for me, and that is because you were an assistant, and I asked everybody this that was an assistant and eventually became a head. You know, what's some of the most important things that you would say that a young assistant coach would need to be doing, or something along that aspect that has dreams and aspirations of being a head coach?
Oh, that's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that question. And I saw I think you retweeted it yesterday about the guy who talked about this is what assistant coaches need to be, or these are things they need to be doing. I think that was a great list. But one thing that I always said, and I said this a lot with Coach Justin Sanders, who's my brother in Germantown, ninth grade coach as well. I just told him there's a couple of things that you need to constantly keep doing that I learned that pretty much going to answer your question. I think the first thing is that you build relationships. I think everywhere you go, in the basketball arena, when you go to different basketball games, go to the clinics that you can, and just build relationships with people and talk to people. Because one thing and you said it earlier in this show, you never know who's going to help you or who's going to say, hey, I know this guy, give him an opportunity. So I think there's one, build relationship with college coaches. I mean, excuse me, with college coaches, definitely, but obviously high school coaches, and not just basketball coaches, build relationships with the football coaches, because obviously for those who working in high school, most of the time you got to work the football game, or you might have to work a track meet or the baseball game, softball, volleyball. Interact with all type of people involved with the school, because I can remember when I first got my first head coaching job, my principal at the time, great guy, Mr. Craig Yates, he made some phone calls to previous employees, and all of them weren't basketball coaches. So I think that's important. The second thing that's important is that learn the business that you see your head coach performs on an everyday basis. And what I mean by that is sometimes when we're an assistant coach, we see our head coach maybe making all the phone calls, maybe setting up meetings, setting up fundraisers, doing the schedule, all the business side that has nothing to do with necessarily on the court stuff, X's and O's. Because when you get your first head coaching job, for you to have that experience on how to handle the business side of it, it makes it so much easier to be able to perform. Because I know when I got my first head coaching job, coach, I didn't even know who to call to schedule games. I didn't know how to order gear. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know who to communicate with at the high school association. So I always tell young guys, learn the business side of it. And that's going to make your process so much easier when you become a head coach. And then the third thing that I would really say for young coaches is when you coaching and when you're in the game, don't see your opponent as the enemy. Don't see him, don't see her as the enemy. Because when you coaching with that kind of mindset, I'm not saying don't be competitive, be super competitive, want to win, but don't take it to a level where you get so competitive that you forget the person that's across the sideline from you or on the same sideline you are. They're a human being. And coach with competitive edge, but don't forget to still have that love for someone else, because a lot of times some coaches get into the opportunity, well, I got to destroy this guy. I got to beat him by 70 points, or I got to prove a point, or I got to let him know I belong here, or I got to get you back because you disrespected me, or you said this. And then that's where conflict comes and people become divided. But after the game is over, again, I'm still a child of God, because a coach is what I do. A coach is not who I am. So I just tell them, coach the game, be competitive, but remember the person that you're coaching against, or people you're coaching with, they're human. They're a person first. So don't forget those things. And those things will take you a long way. And I got a lot more things, but I don't want to take too much of it. But those are some 3 things. And I throw this one in here too. Don't be so quick to judge other coaches. And that's kind of what the podcast is for. But a lot of times we'll look at a coach and say, why they doing that? Or why they doing this? Or why they doing this? Or why, oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. In life and in coaching, it's okay to do your own thing, because my own thing may look different from what you do, but it still can be effective. Like I was thinking about this earlier. It's funny you asked this question. Jesus was totally different than Paul. Jesus told parables. Paul was a little bit more direct. I think about Biggie Smalls and Tupac, 2 different people, but still was effective in what they did culture-wise. I can think about Coach Trey Collins and Coach Chance Collins, brothers, but do something different. But just because one brother does something different doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. I could look at Coach Bolden, who coached in Meridian, and Coach Norman, who coaches now in Meridian. 2 different coaches, 2 different styles, sort of, kind of, but still got the same result. So don't be so quick to judge. Appreciate a person for who they are and appreciate the greatness that each person has within them. So that's my short list, Coach, but I like that question, man. And I thank you for asking me that question.
Yeah, Coach, man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that answer, man. I'm taking plenty of mental notes. I'm gonna go back and I didn't want to be writing the whole time that we're talking, but just these conversations and stuff. This is a learning opportunity for me as well. Just to get to learn from somebody that's been there and done it and has a little more skin in the game. So I appreciate you for that. And definitely taking notes on the wisdom that you've given me here tonight. So I appreciate you, Coach.
Coach, it's the same way, man. I got a list of notes, man, that I've taken down and I've written down. But I thank you for even just considering me to be consider to be a coach that got some skin in the game. Yeah, I've been doing it for 13, 14 years, but and there's a lot of times I feel like, man, I haven't done anything worthwhile. But one thing I'm gonna take from what you said today is my worthwhile is what I'm doing every single day. That's my big time. So as I told Coach Walker on the previous episode, I hopefully to win one championship. But if I don't win a championship, I want to be able to lead this game of coaching and say, hey, I won championship of lives. And I know that sounds cliche, but anybody knows me know I really walk by that. So, Coach, I'm thankful for you. Before we leave the episode, again, don't forget to go to my IG page, and I'm gonna put it in the comment section of this video, so you can go to my IG page. Again, every 30 days, we're gonna choose an organization to be able to support. And every coach that is on the episode between those 30 days, their names will be listed. We challenge them to make a donation. But again, St. Jude is who we chose to sponsor. Again, just supporting those individuals who are dealing with certain things on an everyday basis. And we just want to show support because we want to use our platform to do good. I was going to say this in the beginning of the episode. Of course, there were some tornadoes that came through here in Mississippi, in Rolling Fork, obviously in the Delta area. I saw some pictures from Amory, but not just in Mississippi. There's been some bad weather across the United States of America as a whole. So if you can, support your local community, your local church that are supporting these factors. Again, definitely pray for our home state, Mississippi, Rolling Fork. Again, let's definitely pray, but let's put boots to the ground if we can, or donate financially to help to get those things done, to help those individuals. Because again, that has to be tough. Again, so we want to lift those individuals up right now. So just God bless them. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. I thank you all for coming out for another episode. Please like, please share, please subscribe to our channel. And let's continue to do great things here in the state of Mississippi. Also, too, I'm going to get Coach to put, for those coaches who are not in the group message or the group chat or the group meet, I'm going to get Coach to put that in the comment section as well. So you can be a part of it. And maybe it may not be that easy to set up. So maybe Coach can put his contact or his Twitter handle to be in contact and set that up, so we can make sure we get all the coaches involved with what we're trying to do. So until next time, as I always say, be kind, be nice to someone, and we will see you on the next episode.